So the first thing I wanted to ask you before we jump into the live stream is where that sort of humor, that sardonic wit, that classic sort of English, however you want to describe it, where did that come from for you? Like, how was that first introduced into your life, and how have you sort of integrated that part of your personality into what you do with Cradle?
I think you answered it straight away when you actually did the intro, saying that it was part of English culture. Well, insinuating it was part of English culture, which I guess it is. Yeah, we're a very sarcastic race, and race. We're a race of English people. No, I just think it's ingrained in our personalities. I think we're quite reserved as well. We're very apologetic about stuff and wouldn't say boo to a goose at some points. But yeah, I guess that's part of it. Everybody around me has always been like that. And my best friends, they're full of sarcastic dad jokes and stuff. That's where we got to. That's the level it is now. Dad jokes.
Evil dad jokes.
Yeah.
There's something about for me as a kid growing up in the Midwest in the States, I had the massive blessing of the young ones getting shown on MTV at like Saturday nights at midnight or something, and I used to tape it on the VCR. And there's only 2 series of that show, but I watched every episode over and over and over repeatedly, every morning before school. And I feel like the young ones, and then discovering other British comedy.
Did you ever see Filthy Rich and Cat Flap?
No.
That was the it was the next one, like the next progression between that and Bottom. I don't know if you saw Bottom.
I did. Yeah, I am familiar with Bottom. So was this the?
Well, if you haven't seen Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, you've missed this massive part of your life then, because it's essentially the same actors but in a different scenario, and it's got the same humor.
Oh, I've got to find it then, because you
can find it easily.
It shaped my humor, and it shaped a lot of my sensibilities. It also introduced. That was the first time I saw or heard Motorhead. Was them playing in the living room. Madness. So many great bands. So yes, I've always had an affinity for that, and I think maybe that's part of. I pick up on that. My radar picks up on that when I read interviews with you, and when I. And listening to Cradle, as aggressive and dark and omnipresent and metal as it is, I've always appreciated that there's a sharp insight into the human condition that I think transcends just darkness, if that makes sense. Is that nihilism? Is that resignation? Is that is humor a way that we deal with those sort of feelings?
Hang about a minute, I'm just going to go. No, I'm just moving out camera shot for 1 second.
No problem.
No, I don't believe that. I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction to anything. Like, I can't even see the camera. Am I in shot at all?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Hello. Well, it's so far away across my room, it's like literally impossible to see. No, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. It's just an ingrained thing. I recently met up with my uncle, haven't seen for ages, literally ages, like years, and was quite surprised at how hilarious he was as soon as I met him, despite being quite a serious character online, and almost unapproachable from afar. And I just think it's a trait that runs vein deep in people of our disposition.
Indeed. Well, maybe there's something in my DNA then as a American Irish Catholic origin. It's somewhere in there, in that vicinity. So let's talk about the live stream. And first I want to, as someone who has, masterminded and led this band and all of the various extensions of the band as it exists in merchandise and in the theatricality and grand sort of architecture that's always been part of Cradle. when the pandemic happens, there's no shows, and then bands start popping up doing these live streams, and sometimes it's literally someone with an acoustic guitar on their couch. Sometimes it's a band in their rehearsal room. I saw one that was a band in a studio setting, but they're like talking to no one as though there's an audience, you know, like, yeah, you guys.
I think, you know, I think you should, when you edit this conversation, you should have some like very sad music creep in behind that whole speech. It was heading that way.
well, my question for you is, as someone who puts so much into the spectacle, and that the show is so much part of the music and the overall thing, it had to have been more difficult for you to wrap your head around, I would imagine, in terms of ambition. And like Cradle's not going to do a live stream that's just you on the couch, right? Like,
no, of course.
So at what point did you cross the Rubicon, so to speak, where you realized, okay, I can mount something that is worthy of what Cradle needs to be in this current setting? You know what I mean? Like, because it's either don't play shows or do a live, you know.
I regularly mount things. With the live stream, we were originally supposed to do it in November, and we had ambitions then. We were going to shoot it in a church. Well, it's a music venue, it's a church anyway, so really it's not a big deal here, but it just seemed apt. And then due to the ongoing, the restrictions of the pandemic, it was a lockdown 1 minute, and then there was like 6 weeks. Nobody really knew what was going on, and it's been the trouble. The whole length and breadth of this is that half our band lives abroad. We have 2 people in the Czech Republic, whom we refer to as the Czech mates. Someone in Scotland. I can't tell you the whereabouts of our latest keyboardist yet. And then the 2 people who live in England live in complete different corners. So it was a struggle. And this live stream was only actually brought to pass by the fact that loads of people had to go into quarantine under very difficult situations. Ready, you know, I mean, and to even have it happen. So it literally was like when the stars were right. So toward the back end of it, we were thinking, look, even if we get together in a bloody rehearsal room that's got no background or anything, you know, you just see some amps, that would be good enough at this stage, because it's been, you know, near impossible. Yeah, if you want to try and go abroad, forget about it now. I mean, you know, a year ago they should have shut down the borders, and they didn't. But now they're kind of penalising everybody. So in a certain respect, it's getting worse to actually put on something like this. But put it on, we did.
So without giving too much away, you know, as we're recording this, we're just a few days away from when people will finally have an opportunity to see it. What are some things that you set out to do to make it feel as Cradle as possible? You know what I mean? Because it's like different. It's not a music video. It's not a live show. It's this whole different.
Well, you know what? It actually will feel pretty much like a cross between both. We're shooting it in a music suppliers. It's like, I don't even know if that's the right word. I mean, the place looks like the docking bay on an Imperial Star Destroyer. I was thinking there may be some TIE fighters up hanging in the corner and stuff like that. That's what it looks like. Yeah. If you were to bring some touring gear in into the building, it would be like, and you were to hide them somewhere, it would be like the end of Indiana Jones. It's just massive and vast. And we're going to be setting up tantamount to a proper live big concert, very much like our concert we did at the London Palladium last year, 2 years ago, which essentially theoretically last concert that we undertook.
Mm.
So this is the first time people have seen us in a year and a half, much like many other bands, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to take on the full mantle of being a full live show with fire and snow and film running behind the whole thing. I mean, it's on a big scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to carry on from where we left off. If people are going to part with their money to see, you know, this great performance with a new keyboardist as well,
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to make it like cinematic. And yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be, cinematic for sure.
Yeah.
And it's taken like I say, it's taken a long trek to get to this point. If everybody lived, you know, as with my other band, Devilment, within 2 or 3 miles of where I'm sitting, then it could have been undertaken a long time ago. But like I said, the stars had to be right, and there was a lot of logistical stuff that had to be undertaken.
Yeah, and I find also that, you know, unless you're a band of teenagers or young adults, you know, sleeping on floors and living that life, most established acts now are pretty spread out, you know, whether it's bands in America who live in different states or, you know, like Cradle, different parts of the European continent. You know, I think that it almost seems to be more the norm than the traditional idea of like, oh, everybody's together all the time. You know, it seems like.
Well, yeah, we spent so much time on tour together. We had in the last couple of years that the thought of even spending 1 iota of time together for that year and a half was disgusting at best. But you know, we met each other for some rehearsals recently and to undertake a couple of videos, which we had to like pile everything into the same month naturally. Especially with like people in quarantine for 10 days. Yeah. I can't laugh. I am laughing about it now, and I hope they're laughing about it too. But I mean, I couldn't even imagine it. And apparently Wi-Fi went down and everything. So, oh dear. But yeah, we literally had to pull everything together. So we undertook 2 videos, photo shoots for our new album, which was literally just being held back by the fact that we didn't have that, or, you know, photos, promo shots, whatever, which obviously lends to the culmination of our artwork, or videos, you know.
Yeah.
So and I hate lyric videos, so we want to do it the proper way, you know, proper 3-4 videos for this album rather than, you know. Well, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I want to see a Cradle music video, not a Cradle lyric.
Yeah, it was a difficulty, but it was great. Honestly, the video is going to be incredible. It was very, obviously very, very well planned.
Well, time to plan. Well, and you're
big crew, big family. Got to see our crew again and everybody around us, and a lot of COVID testing, but we got there. And now, obviously, we're very much looking forward to doing the live stream after all this. It's been like a great series of pre-production and rehearsal for it. And so we're on fire, man. We're on fire.
And you're so your lyrics are so verbose and poetic and dense that a lyric video would, I mean, how could you follow a lyric video? How would you how would you fit a Cradle verse into the frame?
Best.
How much can we talk about the new record?
Well, I just stop when I'm not allowed to say something, hopefully.
And obviously it's almost cliche at this point, you know, with lockdown and everything, you know, bands are talking about, oh, I've been writing, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. But I also know that you're a bit of a cinephile, a film person. Have you had an opportunity to catch up on a lot of movies or revisit things that you love, or has there been?
Well, yeah, ironically, I've actually watched less movies over the lockdown than anything else. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Well, I guess it's because I've had the opportunity to really, first let me explain the studio that we recorded the new album in, much like the same studio we recorded the last 2 records in, is very close to my house. And we were very lucky to get the drummer in, Martin, and Rich one of the guitarists in prior to it going into lockdown. So that was enough for me to start my vocals and to start really addressing the songs. And so we spread our time quite consistently across last year in the studio. I mean, we had no time constraints. Nobody knew when the lockdown was going to end. And we could only work certain hours of the day, you know. So we just spread it out. And I just undertook loads of other things, you know, worked in the house, worked on other little projects, personal stuff. And yeah, I think I watched less. I started watching more TV series, but not a huge amount, actually. Not as much as some people.
Yeah. And I think when people are watching this, and we do
people are watching this, oh my god!
No, when theoretically, when this airs, right, we'll have done some editing. So if I need to cut this out, I will. But I think by the time this is out, the song you did with Twisted will be out, because I think that's.
Well, it depends when this comes out. I think the Twisted song comes out mid-June.
Okay, so it's soon, I know. So maybe not. So maybe
that was another strange thing. I've had lots of strange things occur during lockdown, and I don't know. Maybe it was something I wouldn't have done had I been stupidly busy like the last 3 years preceding the plague. But it really intrigued me, and the people that I was, you know, that were in contact with me from the band and management were really genuinely super nice people.
Yeah.
And I thought, why not? It'd be good. And when I heard the song, it's like, oh yeah, this is all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And they, those guys are great. And they have, you know, the same affinity for the theatricality, the cinematic, you know, coming from a different world, a different kind of culture, but with there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of ways that I think.
Did you hear the song?
Yeah. And actually off the record, I managed the producer who ended up mixing it, Zeus.
Oh, okay.
And he's doing all this. Nobody knows this yet, but he's doing an entire record with them.
Oh yeah, I mean, he did a great job.
So yeah,
bearing in mind that they sometimes when you get approached about a cover, they're quite happy for, you know, whoever it is, quite happy for you to undertake it, and they're aware you're not going to see eye to eye with their vision.
Right.
And some people are quite like, you just do what you want. That's all we want from you. Do what you want. But in a scenario like this, which is quite removed from the box, from my box, it's, you know, it's a different genre, a different feel, etc., a different approach. It was like, okay, do I suggest these ideas or not? And I suggested ideas, and they took them on board. And I was quite surprised when I got the mix back, how they'd integrated my ideas with their ideas and how it turned out. And normally when you get stuff back, you go, okay, yeah, it's their vision.
Right.
But I was genuinely really happy with it. I was like, I thought it was cool, and then I forgot about it and moved on to something else. And then they got back in contact and said, hey, do you want to hear some rough mixes? And I was like, wow, this really surprised me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I had the same attitude as you. You know, I got to know those guys and their manager over the last year or two, and just by nature of them being so cool, it caused me to give something a look that I might not have otherwise.
Yeah, very, very laid back as well.
Yeah, and then I started digging into their stuff, and I was like, I actually really like this. You know, and like they've got the action figures and the comic books and like a bunch of stuff that crosses over, and they're, you know, they're good rappers, which isn't always the case in those situations either. So, yeah, so I was excited when they told me that they.
Whereas I can't even wrap a Christmas present.
So this stream is going to be available for 2 weeks after its initial airing. Cradle does have some festival dates on the calendar. Of course, we're all sort of we're still waiting to see what's going to happen and if shows keep getting moved and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, they just did a thing here in England, in Liverpool, where the Beatles are from. where they rolled out like they did an experimental concert without masks, just to see whether, you know, everybody dies in fits of spasms in a few weeks or not. But we're doing pretty well here with the whole rollout of the vaccine, whether you believe it or not. You know, it seems to be lowering the risk of infection, or maybe our lizardine overlords are just turning the temperature down. Who knows? But things seem to be getting back to a semblance of normality, crawling toward that way at least.
Yeah.
And hopefully, well, we do have a date penned. I'm sure I'm not supposed to divulge it at the present, for the back end of the year, for, you know, proper gig-filled venues play.
Yeah, and fingers crossed. If do you imagine, because, and this is a question I've been pondering just in general, now that audiences, fans have gotten accustomed to the live streams happening, do you think as touring comes back, the live stream thing is something that's going to stay? Because I think at first it was kind of like, well, this is a temporary fix, but now I'm starting to think that we might have both, you know, like it might be something.
Well, maybe. I mean, yeah, I can't see why not. I guess they'll probably have to offer more, because if people can go and see a concert. But for those people who live on, you know, the fringes of, you know, far removed places where you essentially can't get to a show, I think it'll be invaluable. And they might even do it where they have like 3 or 4 bands, you know, and they should just, you know, like a boxing event or a sporting event. Obviously, it's not the same thing, but, you know, to the person that, I don't know, lives in Timbuktu, who literally can't, you know, never been to a concert, can't get to a concert,
right?
It would be invaluable. And I think to fans as well.
Yeah. And
well, obviously to fans, yeah.
It's interesting too, because I was having a conversation about, you know, some bands they do the live stream and a couple months later they release it as a Blu-ray or whatever. And at first I was kind of like, well, that's, I don't know, does that devalue the special?
That's a bit cheeky, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. But then I've had the argument presented to me on the other side, which is, well, you know, you pay your $15 to go see a movie in the theater, and then you'll still
absolutely,
buy
and then it's on Sky and cable the next week.
Yeah. So
and also to be fair to bands in general, we have, you know, I know a lot of people have suffered greatly from the plague, from coronavirus. Here, there's been a lot of people that not benefited as such, but they've been kept on, you know, they've been out of work. That a lot of my friends have spent a lot of time with their families, time they'd never spent before.
Yeah.
You know, 24 hours a day, getting paid 80% of their current, you know, their normal income, but they're not going out for meals because, you know, you can't. You're not paying for petrol, blah blah blah, travel expenses, and they've been more better off than they've been for a long while. And a few people I know have definitely been rediscovering the delights of music, like vinyl, actually paying for stuff as opposed to downloading it. And it's been a real benefit, I think, to the music community, which has suffered, let's not forget, hideously. And it's not just the bands, but, you know, the roadies, the people that put on the shows, people that help you in and out of the venue, the toilet cleaners. It's all gone to shit. I guess there's a lot of bands that probably folded or probably won't do albums forever. You know, it's been a worrying time for this sector of the entertainment business. And I hate to sound like someone that knows what they're talking about in that respect. I just can say what I know, and people have suffered.
Yeah, well, at this point, you need to accept that you have made a living at it.
Well, yeah, well, that's our living. That's what I do for a living. Some people work in banks, some people work at Walmart, some people work at Burger King, some people are expensive lawyers, you know?
Yeah, experience gives you the.
This is what I do. This is what my friends do. And it's been hard.
Yeah. Well, Dani, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. Super excited to see the show, to see what you guys put together, to watch Cradle and the Death Star Hangar Bay. I think it should be excellent. And yeah, and I
I
would
don't
love
think
to.
that's going to be that apparent from the actual. It's going to look like a proper concert, but from our angle, and I've stood on all the risers and to test out the various things that we've got going on. From that angle, it really does, yes.
Awesome.
And maybe the producer gets anything wrong. Maybe a flotilla of armed stormtroopers might apprehend him.
Yeah, there may be an execution or two.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be us without an execution or two.
Indeed. Well, yeah, I would love to speak again much sooner than last time.
Well, new album coming out.
Precisely.
I can't tell you the release date, but I mean it's tentative. Obviously, we're waiting for all of this to happen, and the fact people in the country could finish everything that we need to do for the album, as in the videos, etc., which are obviously an important part in the build up to any album. So now this is done, we can get on with the process of like continuing with our lives, but new album and what lies beyond.
Awesome. Well, have a good evening over there, and yeah, looking very forward to chatting with you again soon.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Take care.